Welcome back, everybody, to Week 6 of the Hearthstone Legendary Series, brought to you by Newegg.com. It's with Frodan and Azumo. Our next match is going to be Ozzy versus FlyBird. And that sounds like a very good metal band.
It does.
Of some kind, or something in the 80s of some sort. But this is the next match that we have between a Taiwanese player. And where's Ozzy from? Is he American?
He's a Filipino player.
Oh, okay.
So we're going all over the globe today with these guys. Jirachi hailing from Finland, Gooby from America, FlyBird from Taiwan, and Ozzy from the Philippines. So it's nice to see a very international showing coming to these ESL Challenger Cups.
That was the plan. The fact that we wanted to have it open to anybody in the world. We've had some people play from India, right? That's where GCT Turth was, I believe, from that area of the world. Some people from Africa sometimes even register for the cups as well. That's cool stuff that Hearthstone's really reaching out and connecting people all over the globe, and we're very happy to be part of that as well. We do want to talk a little bit about FlyBird and a little bit more as well, because he's a Taiwanese player, and it seems like these Taiwanese players, when they come and play in the ESL Legendary Series, they mean business. We see Wei Fu, we saw Ping Ping Ho, all of these guys, they're very talented, they're very good at the game. But it seems like the number one thing in common amongst all these Taiwanese players is that they are really tired when they play in our cups. It's like 4 a.m., 5 a.m. for them, and they stay up till early in the morning. Oftentimes, at the very end of our broadcast, we see sun rising up in their backgrounds.
Ozzy from the Philippines as well. That's a very similar time zone. So these guys, if they make it to tomorrow especially, where there's a little bit more matches and sometimes it can go a little bit longer, they really have to have that stamina and prepare by sleeping throughout the whole day to be able to make it through this. So looking at the deck list now, Warrior, Druid, and Warlock for FlyBird, and then Warrior, Warlock, Paladin for Ozzy. So we were talking a little bit before, and you said you were expecting to see quite a bit of Paladin and Druid today. And well, we've seen Druid in both matches so far, and going to see the debut of Paladin for today.
Yeah, I was saying how I think the top 3 classes in terms of what to bring tournaments are Warlock, Paladin, and Druid. Warrior is more of an optional, depends on how you read the situation. But even if your opponent's bringing an aggressive deck like Zoo, like 6-0 Zoo, do you really want to bring Warrior compared to having another option that can destroy it if you want to bring Priest, for example, or something else? The reason why I think Paladin is so good is because it's even better as a late game control against Warrior, or if you want to scale it mid-range, because the mid-range Paladin just sometimes beats things. Just like you have Quartermaster and you have a lot of 1-1s, and it's like, oh look, I win! And then you like raise your arms in victory. It feels like it happens more often than not, like 1 out of every 4 or 5 games. And Paladin just has like ridiculous tempo plays back to back to back, especially with like shielded mini bot, muster for battle, and they have such sticky minions, and then you like coin Quartermaster and destroy them.
Yeah, well, you talked about it a little bit earlier. You brought up a great point when we were talking. You said that Warriors is one of the only refined decks right now, because basically it's the same deck, just people added like Dr. Boom and Shield Maidens, which were pretty obvious choices. Well, Dr. Boom not so obvious at first, but now it is. And a lot of the other decks are still going through some transitional phases.
They're definitely figuring out what's good, optimal.
Yeah, they just hit puberty, so they're trying to get through that little bit of a transitional
awkward growing phase.
Exactly. That's where GVG is at for a lot of classes right now. And so Warrior's sort of that safe pick. It's the pick that a lot of players go, well, it's strong, it's got good matchups against a lot of things. Yep. Even its bad matchups are still winnable. So people are saying, well, we might as well bring it. With the popularity of Druid, though, increasing, I see a lot more players on Ladder, a lot of the smaller tournaments as well, like Deck Wars, with Reynad and Dog the last week, and even in Pinnacle, lots of Druid. So with that, the popularity of Druid increasing, we might see Warrior diminish just a little bit.
I think so, and I think I wouldn't be too upset, because I feel like there are better decks out there, and I think Warrior is... just as a more personal bias, if I can introduce it here as a commentator, I try not to do it very often. But I think Warrior is also a little bit more boring compared to seeing some other cooler decks that are out there. If everyone's just playing Warrior and Handlock, it's like, well, guys, there are more control decks as we get ready for game number 1 here. I think there are more options than that. We haven't seen the lineups just favor up too much for either player, but let's see if this is a Zoo or if it's a Handlock.
Well, this looks to be
looks like a Zoo.
Looks like a Zoo. Looks like the 6-0 Zoo deck. I don't think he teched in owls in a lot of his runs, but it's a pretty easy addition.
Now, if that's Sea Giant and there's an implosion instead of a Voidwalker, that still doesn't necessarily mean one or the other, right?
Oh, no.
You said that handlock players have experimented with Sea Giant implosion combinations.
Oh yeah, especially like as early as yesterday. It was Frozen, who's we've seen him on the ESL Legendary Series before. I believe maybe not last week, but the week prior.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
And he's a top Legend player in North America. He was actually the first player to hit Legend in the January season. So I know it's very early in the season, but those guys they really go gung ho for it. I think he did about 100 wins.
It's like a friendly wager. They they started wagering packs. I did that with
really?
Amaz when GVG first came out. I challenged him to an arena run. First player to get 12 packs or 12 wins.
12 wins.
Buys the other person 40 packs.
Yeah.
So lots of fun stuff like that. And, pros are friendly, challenging each other. And, they usually are welcoming amongst that friendly competition. Looks like there's a small issue with that first game. I think some technical difficulties. But the reason why is because it's actually the wrong class. It's supposed to be Warrior versus Warrior to start things off.
Yeah, and it happens from time to time. The players get a little bit antsy, forget which order they put their decks in, and pick the wrong one. So we'll be jumping right back to that matchup. But Warrior versus Warrior, that's probably one of the matchups that we saw a lot of last week. Control Warrior and Handlock last week it seemed like every single player brought those two decks. And that might be the case with this one. We did see, I believe it was FlyBird running what could be a Zoo Warlock. It's hard to tell. Voidwalker, it's 90%, I think, Zoo. It could be a little bit of a switch up.
Back in the day, I believe Gabe Walls was the one who tried putting Voidwalker in, so that way you had like a Jiraxis Voidwalker play, so you could be defensive.
Yep.
Not to mention it was like an early game, like play in case it was aggro.
But Zombie Chow is like
interesting.
So much better nowadays in that same position. Maybe not so much late game with the like Jiraxis and then one drop play, but as an anti-aggro measure for early game, Zombie Chow and Handlock. And
2 attack, it's a big difference.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of players are actually putting Zombie Chow into Handlock now, which is a little bit interesting as well.
I like it a lot. But let's take a look at the match play real quick and see what these guys have. We have Warrior versus Warrior to start things off.
No, Warlock. Okay, I see.
Oh, it was the opposite way. So FlyBird chose Warrior, Ozzy chose Warlock.
Yeah.
Okay. So they confuse each other.
Okay. Well, this is a little bit different. So we won't get to see Warrior versus Warrior, but I'm not too sad.
Oh darn!
Not too sad about that. Not too sad. And
Druid versus Paladin is going to be the interesting one.
Oh yeah. We didn't. I don't think we saw much Druid versus Paladin over the last 2 weeks of the Legendary Series. So that definitely should be interesting. And depending on which Warlock this actually is, Zoo actually does really well against Control Warrior. And Handlock can sometimes do really well. I think Handlock is a little bit favored against Control Warrior, but it's a lot of the times it's hard to say. And if you looked at the win rates from last week, or from 2 weeks ago, the last week 5 of the Legendary Series, Warrior actually won quite a bit.
It's tough to say, for sure. It's tough to say. Maybe it's not as good as the Hobgoblin Warrior that you made.
Oh no, nothing is as good as the Hobgoblin Warrior.
I think Control Warrior does have a shot against Handlock.
I know I've been really vocal about trying to get Hobgoblin Warrior out there, but now I'm trying to keep it on the down low.
Gotcha.
Because it's actually starting to pick up steam, and people are starting to mess around with Mech Warrior, and so I want to be the one to say, I'm screenshotting everything, by the way, and dating, time stamping, and of course putting a watermark, my own Asmo watermark on every single Hobgoblin Warrior picture that I have.
Gotta get your own copyright trademarks.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to be what Raynad was to Zoo of Hobgoblin Warrior.
No one can be what Raynad is to Hearthstone.
Amen.
This is a Zoo from Ozzy. So looks like we have both these guys running Zoo.
Okay.
Now Barrageddon is an interesting choice because most people have replaced him with the Dr. Boom. Oh man, that start though. That start though from Ozzy can be so nasty.
Wow.
Thankfully, FlyBird does have the Fiery War Axe, but if he didn't, that could have been disastrous.
It's still not the greatest of hands here for FlyBird. He does have Fiery War Axe, but against Zoo, they can still flood the board once your Fire War Axe is down. And then if you don't have follow-up answers to whatever's going to be dropped next, it could be rough. But had he not had that axe, it would have been really bad because that Undertaker would have gotten out of control very quickly.
Right, it would have been a 3-4. It would have been doing, you know, a lot of repetitive damage. And this looks like a weak turn from Ozzy, but still, at least the board hasn't gotten too out of control.
It's true.
Like, as a Warrior player, I'm always, like, a little bit happy when I see my opponent, like, dropping passive cards like Nerubian Egg or Haunted Creeper. It's more like smaller cards that are more sticky, board-oriented. I'm like, okay, this gives me a moment to breathe, and maybe I can pick up cards that have higher impact.
Gives you a chance to stabilize as well.
Right.
This is... I wonder what he's thinking about here. Is he
If he's thinking about
just holding on?
Yeah, not attacking here.
Yeah, because either way, he's not going to have armor next turn.
Well, he can armor up shield.
Oh, yeah,
slam.
armor up. Yeah, well, either way, well, I guess he could. If he attacks and then armors up, he'll still preserve 1 armor, which would allow him to be able to armor up shield slam something down the following turn. But it feels bad to use like half a card, or the second Fire War Axe charge to kill half a card. It's basically trading half a card for half a card. Potion not too useful right now, though.
No, not very. So, playing everything here, just pretty much trying to swarm. There's no point in taking it slow. You are the more aggressive deck. And, you know, having Implosion to answer whatever comes next, and if your opponent doesn't have Whirlwinds, you're going to have some massive damage coming in every single turn.
It's very true. And it can get out of hand very, very quickly. Especially, like a lot of times, you rely on like one stabilization method in the mid game as Warrior. There's not very many times where you can just have an answer to everything the Warlock puts out early game, the Zoolock puts out early game, because you only have so many things that you can have to deal with it. You're never going to have really a board advantage going into turn 4. It's very rare. So you need like a well-timed Brawl, or like a Despite with a Whirlwind combination, some way to stabilize on like the turn like 4, 5, or 6. Because if you don't, then a Doomguard at any point could just completely blow the game wide open.
Oh, man.
That hurts.
Oh, that's so... Okay, well, it hurts for many reasons. The first is that now you give him a target for Implosion, and you just lost your BGH. The second is, what if he plays Sea Giant, and it's like, well, now you don't have your way to respond to it. I guess it's more of like a take it as you see it. You can't really assume your opponent has Sea Giant until you witness it. But now that's 10 damage coming in through the next turn.
Wow. Wow. You sort of have to make that play, though. You can't just keep just stagnating and saying, well, maybe next turn. And, of course, even if you see Implosion, you can't even expect Sea Giant then. Because
Better than digging through your deck through Shield Block, you think?
It's tough to say. Because Shield Block, I don't know. You kind of want to be able to use Shield Block on something that's a little more tangible.
I think it would be, like, okay, but if the next card was Death's Bite, say he draws Death's Bite on his next draw.
Okay.
Then the Shield Block. Like, that's what you have to be thinking about. Like, you have to be thinking about what is Shield Block getting you closer to. Because right now, he is under some significant pressure.
Board's full, though.
Yeah, you can't actually load anything.
And he can't deny the draw. Hilarious. He can't deny, like, any draws in this. He has to give it to. But I don't think he cares, though.
I think you just push for half its life, right? It's not that big of a deal. Is it really that impactful to you to drop these minions? He still has to deal with it. You're giving him 2 draws preemptively as well.
Yeah.
Not to mention missing 3 damage.
Is he playing on a... He's attacking very slowly.
Well, he's deciding last secondly, but
okay.
I'm pretty sure face attacks is what it's going to be.
Yeah, he puts him down to 10 health. So, without an immediate way to deal with this, this is just...
He needs to draw Whirlwind off this Acolyte slash whatever he's drawing off of.
Yeah.
That would be so big.
And you can tell FlyBird's just not happy with the situation. Even a Whirlwind at this point, it's can you stabilize at that point? He does have shield block, he does have shield maintenance, so it's possible that you'd be giving up board initiative in that case. He wants to use Armor Smith just to get as much extra health as possible, but if that happens, he's basically making his only out Whirlwind, or one of his only outs Whirlwind.
No, it's not Whirlwind.
Sledge Belcher still will be pretty good as long as he can stabilize.
Right. I think shield block has to come out here.
It does.
And maybe it gets him closer to surviving, but still a little bit ways off. Okay, so 8 damage right now. Here's like another thing too. Like Ozzy doesn't have a lot of punch from his hand. He's got ways to continue to load the board, and like until he effectively kills his opponent, it's always like a moment where you feel like it might be too late. So he's prioritizing killing the Armor Smith, which I actually do agree with here.
Yeah, because you never know what your opponent can hide that Armor Smith behind. Which he does have a Sludge Belcher in his hand. If you get to a point where you're doing that, if you don't have a way to get through it, then, especially with a lot of little creatures on the board like this, you're just giving him armor. Getting through the Sludge Belcher with that amount of little creatures on the board, you could be saying giving your opponent like 6 or 7 armor from that.
Right, because then he has Baron get in to clear everything, plus
yeah.
gain some armor with however minions are on the
Wow.
board. It does add up to a significant amount. You're absolutely right.
You can't just go faces, Azu. There is some decision making involved, contrary to popular belief. Contrary to Reddit pitchforks.
But also, along with popular belief, it sometimes is very
it's the right
easy to
choice.
to sneak a win.
Yep. Well, once again, filling up the entire board. Now this could be good, but it also could be a little rough because he doesn't have much power. Oh, that's pretty good.
It's really good. So if you use Death Spite, how much damage is there on the board? There's 3, 5, 9 damage. You armor up, you'll be safe from a Doom Guard. Or do you even Armor Smith? Because you're safe from Doom Guard. Let's see. 3, 5, 6 damage. Be at 12. No, it's very risky. If you attack with Death Spite and into like say the Flame Imp.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, but we forgot about the Leper Gnome.
Yep.
That extra damage actually does matter. So you might have to armor up. So what you can do is you can use Death Spite here, kill off the Flame Imp. Next turn you can drop the Armor Smith and the Sludge Belcher.
Do you gain the armor from the Armor Smith before
should you Shield Slam here?
Do you gain the armor from the Armor Smith before the death? You would gain the armor before the Death Rattle from the from the Leper Gnome triggers.
Yeah, I think so.
So you could effectively.
Wait, no. Are you sure?
No.
It's one of those things that you have to be 100% confident in.
Yeah, because if that's true, then you could effectively play Armor Smith and Sludge Belcher and be able to survive through that extra damage because you'd gain the 2 armor first. But I just am not 100% sure.
He'd be doing 5 damage. No, he can't juggle. He doesn't have enough space on the board to juggle everything.
Yeah.
If he had infinite space on the board, he could Knife Juggler and then play the Void Walker, and then a Power Overwhelming like the spiders, and then it would destroy spiders with 2 extra damage.
You could also, yeah, that's true.
He'd actually have the lethal damage, I think.
Or you could do it the more, if you didn't have, there was an opportunity for him to do it anyway with Power Overwhelming the Egg. You'd still get extra damage in, and you'd also leave a 4/4. But then that makes you a little more susceptible to the Death Bite AoE. You'd be forcing your opponent to take 4 additional damage, but still, you want that egg as sort of a buffer.
Well, that's really tight. Once again, both these guys are roping quite often in this first game. Despite that Zoo is more of a fast-paced deck, this game has slowed down a considerable amount.
Yeah. So it's fast-paced, and I think it is favored against Warrior, but you really have to make super smart decisions because it's entirely possible for a Warrior just to be able to stabilize And pretty much unless you can get a huge swing turn with like a Doomguard and a Power Overwhelming, that's a lot of Zulocks are starting to, or have cut so far a while ago. Then once a warrior stabilizes, they're in pretty good shape.
So I know we were talking about Armor Smith and Sludge Belcher, but I also think Shield Maiden Shield Slam here is pretty strong.
Okay.
All you leave your opponent is a 1/1 Echoing Ooze, as well as the 0/1 Egg, and you have a 5/4 out there on the field.
That's pretty good.
In fact, the more I analyze this, I really think I favor that because you'll have more life doing this.
Well, he still has the opportunity to do that line of play next turn.
He's afraid of Doomguard,
Yeah.
I think.
Because this way, if Doomguard is played, it's not really that effective. He'd basically just be able to clear off the Sludge Belcher, and then he knows he has Shield Maiden Shield Slam for the following turn to be able to clear off the Doomguard. So
It's just that this is a very powerful combination. You can't blame him for wanting to do this because the Sludge Belcher with the Armor Smith is very strong because you gain a lot of armor.
Well, that's pretty good.
Oh boy.
I mean, he could Knife Juggler. Well, no.
Well, Knife Juggler Power Overwhelming.
Knife Juggler Power Overwhelming would be the best way to deal with it, and then throw the Direwolf down to be able to clear off the slime. But then I don't really see a way where you could clear off the Armor Smith as well, unless you get really good juggles. But even then, just the juggles alone are going to give FlyBird so much armor. You have to... Sequencing really matters here, I think.
He's got to make a decision quick.
Yeah, Wolf. Yeah. This is the best way to do it.
So he's doing this to minimize the juggle chances?
Well, why would he play the Flame Imp after if that was the case?
I think he's going to rope on this one pretty hard.
The Sludge Belcher death animation is just way too much. I don't think he
There's
got
still
it.
some time. Oh, wow. He roped with so much damage remaining on board. Oh my god. That might have been a huge difference maker.
Okay, so Baron Geddon would...
Well, you shield slam. You want to shield slam.
You could shield slam the Haunted Creeper, Baron Geddon, and clear the entire board and be left with the same amount of health that he's at now.
If you attack the Haunted Creeper so that you gain a little bit of armor first, is there any guarantee?
Well, you have to be able to clear off the Nerubian.
Right, so you shield slam the Nerubian.
I would shield slam the... You don't have enough armor. I would shield slam the Haunted Creeper.
Oh yeah, but you can use an Armor Smith with minions on board to gain
okay.
armor. It's just that, do you take too much damage?
Oh, yeah. So Armor Smith into the Haunted Creeper.
Right.
And then you'd still be able to gain the armor after the turn. Or this works as well.
Yeah.
Either way, it's...
Oh, I get it. So he wants as many targets as possible for the juggles. Oh, that's so unfortunate.
Wow. I guess in the end, it's still the same.
Well, he gains one less armor now.
One less
because of
armor,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, that's just like really, really bad luck for FlyBird.
Yeah.
Shield slam for 1 damage.
Well, Doomguard off the top is a victory.
Seems pretty likely at this point. Ozzy's very deep into his
Oh,
deck.
that's not it. But still tough to deal with.
Well, here's a bigger question. FlyBird is killing himself as well every turn. And now there's also a Nerubian that most likely will pop up soon.
But shield block with double Shield Maiden in hand and Grommash Cruel Taskmaster.
Oh, you're right. He's got lethal next turn.
Yeah, he's going to be able to gain 10 health this turn. And I don't think there's any... Well, I guess he would only gain 8 effectively because of the Baron Geddon.
Right. So he'd be at 12 health.
I just wouldn't even pop the Nerubian here.
No, you just hold on, right?
Yeah.
You have the Cruel Taskmaster Grommash. And I think FlyBird might have done it. Might have weathered the storm. Haunted Creeper is not good enough.
That's crazy, though. He went through so many cards in his deck. Look at that. Without ever seeing a Doomguard.
That's rather unlucky.
I'd say so. I would say so. I guess that's what you. He had a pretty good start, but I guess.
Like, what did you do to deserve this, Ozzy? Did you like step on like every single sidewalk crack you could possibly find?
Maybe he forgot to put.
I think
Doom
he
guards
walked
in his
under
deck.
like 15 ladders today.
Maybe he Googled good zoo deck, December 2014.
Oh, come on, that's
and
mean.
then forgot to put in Doom guards. No,
I'm gonna go with the he met 5 black cats today.
okay.
Excuse.
You know, Frodan, I have a black cat.
Is
And
that
I'm
what
not
is that what
unlucky.
you call it? The black cat. That's gonna do it for game 1, guys.
Okay, a fantastic way to end game number 1, but
You don't need to really conceal any information. Everything here is what we've come to expect. And
Yeah.
FlyBird's gonna take the Warrior versus Zoo, and then send it into Druid versus Paladin with a 1-0 lead.
and the rocket takes off right as the victory scream comes up. Congratulations! I can hear the admins in the background clapping.
Well,
and
that was a
cheering.
long game, a very long game. Both these guys, you can tell that they're very, very meticulous with
Oh, yeah.
their decision making.
Which is good to see. It's, can be.
You have the rope for a reason. You can use it.
Yeah, you have that amount of time to take your turn. They put that in the game, like you said, for a reason. So definitely good to see these guys using it, and it pays off in the long run. A little bit unfortunate for Ozzy to not draw into those Doom guards. He had a couple opportunities where if he had, he would have. Well, actually just one, so 2 chances. But he didn't see it one at all throughout the entire game, and I think he went through 20 cards in that game. So we are going to move into the next match. It is going to be FlyBird's Druid versus Ozzy's Paladin. So both these decks have quite a bit of variation. Maybe Paladin not as much now, but still there's so many Paladin decks on ladder. We've seen so many Paladin decks in competitive play over the last month, and they've gotten a lot more tools with GVG to be able to, like you said, sometimes just straight up win games.
Also has Bolvar.
It does have Bolvar. You know me. I'm not that huge of a fan of Bolvar. He impressed me a tiny bit
I
2
think
weeks ago.
Bolvar is heavily underrated. I mean, he's obviously terrible top deck because he's a 1/7 for 5 mana. But there are a lot of cases where he's pretty good. He's pretty decent. There's also a lot of scenarios where some of the best cards are pretty bad, like Ragnaros on a field of 1/1s.
It's pretty bad.
It's very ineffective most of the time.
But I think there's more situations in which Bolvar is underwhelming than situations where Ragnaros is overwhelming. I guess now there's more opportunities for there to be a field full of 1/1s than there was in the past with Muster for Battle and with Dark Whispers.
I think Bolvar. I think he's misunderstood. I think he's okay.
Okay.
I don't think he's amazing. I think a lot of legendaries are like that too. They're like okay, and they still function pretty well.
Okay.
So I think if you include it into your deck, he's definitely made a fan out of me. But if he doesn't have Bolvar, then well, I understand. But
I definitely understand.
Shame on him.
I definitely understand. Well, you sort of have to think about it, and the way you sort of won me over a little bit with your Bolvar arguments was that you have to think about what Bolvar actually is. He's a 5-drop. So I was sort of thinking,
addressed.
yeah, I was thinking like what other 5-drops in the game demand that much attention, and what could you cut to put him in the deck? And he's better than a lot of other options, which is a thing. And also, I was looking at him as like this epic legendary that he should be game changing when he drops, but no. You said it. He demands attention right away, and that's really great in a 5-drop. Even if he's only a 4/7 or a 5/7, that's still a pretty big threat to be able to deal with. Right?
It's just that when you silence him, he just becomes a 1/7. It's just funny.
Then he's just a dude killer.
Yeah, he's basically like the injured Blade Master that gets out of their Peacekeeper. Well, here we go. Zombie Chow in the deck heavily implies that this is like a way for him to stabilize control in the early game and curve out very nicely. I do expect to see Quartermasters and Muster for Battles in Ozzy's deck here.
What about Blood Knights?
That's a really good question. Blood Knight
My greeting.
feels like it'd be very effective.
Most competitive Paladin decks over the past couple weeks that I've seen have run at least one Blood Knight. So it's interesting.
I wonder if Cobalt Guardian will ever see play. It's that card that gains Divine Shield whenever you play a mech.
Yeah.
I want to say no, but
It's a 6/4.
a 6/3.
Oh, 6/3. Yeah. Oh, that's even worse. I was thinking of Paladin Sky Golem, which is a 6/4. But yeah, 6/3 body is really weak if you don't have a mech.
It dies to a 2-drop.
Dies to a Flame Imp.
Well, assuming it doesn't have Divine Shield on it, but
That's
it's
true.
6 mana, it makes it very clunky.
There's just so many better 6-drops.
Wait, I think it's actually got 5 attack. I think it's a 5/3.
Is it a 5/3?
Or is it I think it's a 5/3.
Huh.
Which makes it even worse!
Yeah, there's just so many other great 6-drops that you can use in that place. Even Piloted Sky Golem, I think, is a better 6-drop, and that's one of the bottom barrel.
This guy goes sick. It's like care number 2.
It's like a Savannah High main for laymen.
Yeah, but sometimes it gives you a 4/1 Twilight Drake. I'm
Oh,
always
yeah.
really sad.
Yeah, that is very sad. Or you could get a Piloted Shredder, and then the value is just infinite.
No, it's not necessarily infinite. Pilot Shredder will stop getting Death Rattle.
No, it's infinite. Because then, no, never mind. What could you have from a 2-drop that summons another creature?
Like a Haunted Creeper.
Oh, yeah. Nope.
FlyBird's under a lot of pressure at the moment, and it's so annoying to deal with because of Divine Shields. There's no clean way to deal with it.
And you have double BGH in your hand right now.
Is it legitimate to just innervate Sylvanas out here? Okay, probably not.
This is pretty good. Because you're still going to be able to deal with it, and you're taking off the Divine Shields as well with the swipe, so... In a way, it could feel a lot better to push out a creature.
What a draw.
Wow.
Yeah, you're right. It's it feels somewhat consequential, but the fact is he got Muster for Battle after the swipe.
Yeah. So you're putting it on your opponent to basically have the second swipe in his first 8 cards. First 8 or 9 cards, so that's pretty unlikely, and it's tough for a Druid to be able to deal with that otherwise. Sludge Belch is pretty good.
Sludge Belcher, to answer Sludge Belcher, is also pretty good. Unless he gets...
Quartermaster.
I was waiting for it to get off top.
Off the top. The tip of the top. Oh, is he thinking about using the owl?
Well, I think the debate is what 5-drop you want to use here. If you want to use Lotheb or Sludge Belcher, but I see Sludge Belcher being... Well, actually, I say actually Lotheb might be better, because no matter what, then you'll be able to guarantee kill him. But Sludge Belcher also is like a way for you to protect your 1/1s as an investment, so that way, if you pick up Quartermaster, you can drop it the next turn. You still be able to actually even coin out a Quartermaster next turn while using your hero power.
Sure.
So, I guess it's all about the approach here. And the more I think about it, the more I might favor it. Oh, he is going for Owl. Really? That's a very interesting play. So, you're the one who suggested this play. Talk to me a little bit about it.
Well, I was thinking, you want to get, at least I was thinking, I wanted to get a lot more value out of my Muster for Battle than just that. And you know the swipe's gone, so I think you want to push to be a little bit more aggressive in the situation. What else are you going to use the Owl on against a Druid? I mean, of course, there's always like Sylvanas targets, but there's never that thing where you're like, oh, I have to save my Owl, like for a Tyrion or something like that. So pushing through I don't know, just, it's the play that jumped at me the most because of how much pressure you can push on with it. And he uses the Peacekeeper as well, which is just like, oh my god. Ultimate aggro.
It would make sense if he had the pieces already in hand, but he doesn't. Like, right now it feels like his aggression is going to get stopped Well, I actually picked up the knife juggler. That's pretty nice.
Yeah.
But,
You can knife juggler then coin out a 5-drop here.
yeah, that's actually very powerful, especially since you have Sludge Belch to protect it now.
Yeah. And you got protection for that knife juggler as well.
Man.
And he's going to have the opportunity to clear
2-drop.
off a 2-drop. What's it going to be? Oh!
Wow.
That's a big swing.
That's a very big deal because now you can take it out. Although there still is the Sylvanas next turn. That's still pretty problematic. Because FlyBird has 2 big game hunters that are just sitting there.
But then you're still able to push through for so much. Even if Sylvanas comes down, ignoring the Sylvanas never feels great. And letting your opponent dictate where that Sylvanas goes. But if he just plays Sylvanas now and then does nothing because the only other play you could have would be like innervate out a big game hunter.
Which is, yeah, that's reasonable.
It's reasonable, but then just one creature plus a hero power has the... Well, actually, no, that could be a little bit dangerous with the Knife Juggler on board. Because if you get poor juggles onto the Sylvanas, it could mean that he can be able to kill off his Sylvanas pretty easily.
Well, here's also another thing, too. The fact that you use your Innervate now, it means you can't use your double 5-drop Innervate next turn.
Yeah.
So, FlyBird is really hoping that this Sylvanas gets really good mileage. Now, this second Knife Juggler will complicate things a lot. In fact, there's so much damage potential just from these 2 Jugglers alone. You'll be distributing upwards to 5 damage this turn if he wants to go for that.
That's a great juggle.
Yeah.
I think he wants to see where the second juggle is going to go before he throws that in.
Opting for low step.
Yeah, buddy. That's one of the best case scenarios there because you want to kill the big game hunter and you don't want 2 juggles to go on the Sylvanas because you don't want the Sylvanas to be able to trade in that easily to the Sludge Belcher.
But you still kill off Sludge Belcher and there's 2 juggles. So.
Oh, that's true. That's very true.
You actually don't really accomplish that much. Unless it misses. No, so it takes. What does it take?
Oh! That's pretty big.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
so
and
then you put this in taunt mode, right?
I would say so.
Then do you toss out the second big game hunter? Need as much health out there as you can. Are you afraid of dying at all?
I think you might want to... It's so tough to say. You're at such a low health total. You want to save that BGH because you know that at least Dr. Boom is going to be coming out from this Paladin deck. But at the same time, you want to be able to make sure that you have answers. I guess with not that many cards.
Whoa. Another big draw here from Ozzy. These 2 juggles also can be crucial. Meh. Very middle of the road.
Yeah. That's still, you could put him at 3 health right now. That is...
You go for it. Just push as hard as you can.
Force him to have a taunt or else he's dead. Or a heal. Ancient of Lore, I guess. But then if you Ancient of Lore, you're really not going to have a way to be able to deal with anything. And I think that's it.
Oh, you know, this
Well, he
Rat
could
might
draw
be able to
for
pick
one
up
more.
something.
But I don't see what he can get that's going to... Sunwalker is
that's
something
actually
that he
a
can
really
get.
that's a good card.
I wasn't expecting to see a Sunwalker in
I
that scenario.
wonder if he regrets not wrathing for one on like the Knife Juggler or something, but I guess it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
He needs to set up as many targets to juggle away. He needs to protect his Divine Shield as best as he can. If this Divine Shield goes down...
Oh, well, actually, no. That's awkward. He's got a hero power first to hope that that juggle goes on to the...
Yeah. So you hero power and then try to see if you can juggle the Divine Shield off. No. Do you play Big Game Hunter to try to juggle that off too? Because you need to swing with the weapon first.
Oh!
Wow, he gets it.
That's huge. And now...
And that should be game right there.
Yeah.
Because he got the juggle off, he doesn't need to play Muster for Battle number 2, and Oz is going to take this game with Paladin.
Wow. And that one came down to the wire. I mean, he was He was running out of cards there. He
So
still
is
has some
Druid.
juice left. Yeah,
Druid had 1 card remaining.
yeah, that's true. But of course he has a little more ways to draw into things. If he had drawn an Ancient of Lore, he could have stabilized a little bit. Paladins. What card draw do Paladins run?
They have Lay on Hands.
Lay on Hands, yeah,
Usually
that's
pretty
true.
good.
Cult
Sometimes you
Masters-
see Cult Master as well.
Yeah,
So
and
it's out there.
it's there, but very impressive.
So I think Paladin was in a pretty good spot for
Okay.
the most part. I would say so. I would say the quality of draws favor Druid, especially if you have Sunwalker, which heavily implies it's a ramp Druid. But you can't really be too upset because Druid was hanging by a thread. But even if you survived, you probably would die in the next couple turns anyways. You're within at that point you're within range of Consecration, just killing you.
Yeah.
So now we have an even series going into Warrior versus Zoo again. But this time the tables have flipped.
We'll see if Ozzy can have the same success that FlyBird did in that first matchup, but it's always a possibility that Zoo can just completely blow a Control Warrior out of the water and overwhelm them very early on. So it's going to be a tough uphill battle, but tied 1-1, that means we're definitely going to go into that blind pick phase. And I'm curious to see what these guys are going to choose once we get to that phase, because I can't really get a feel for what decks these guys favor. A lot of times going in that blind pick, people will just pick the deck that they're most comfortable with, even if they think it might put them into a little bit of bad matchups.
I'm feeling like as we go into the blind picks, it comes down to Zoo versus Zoo.
Zoo versus Zoo, yeah.
Yeah, it seems to be the most versatile. If that's the case, maybe we have some POV switch and whatnot, and we got faked out. Maybe it's
Handlock? Yeah.
maybe Demon Lock,
Yeah,
maybe Odd Lock. I don't know.
the first game could have just been like a mix-up with the overlays, and that's why we had to restart, but haven't seen that at Zoo yet, but we will be seeing now. I think we are going to jump into that matchup. But it seems like whenever we go to that blind pick phase, it's like Warlock versus Warlock.
Well, it seems like you pick based off the lineup of what your opponent has. Warlock, Zoo would be good against the Warrior and the Druid, and even the Warrior and Paladin. So it just feels like it's very effective.
It's a handlock.
And it is a handlock. Yeah, so it was definitely a small mistake in terms of how we interpreted the first Warlock deck from FlyBird. It also means there's only one Zoo player and there's 3 handlock players.
To be honest, I was kind of expecting that. Zoo seems to be the go-to choice for climbing the ladder, it seems. And
Yeah.
maybe for last hero standing type deals. Because well, even then, I don't know.
I gotta disagree. I think Zoo is very, very powerful in this format, especially because it's just the whole idea of one wrong mulligan can cost you, and then also the blind pick phase makes Zoo it keeps a lot of decks accountable. Paladin actually has a really hard time against Zoo. Druid has a hard time against Zoo.
Yeah. I guess it might just be comfort for these guys, because if you look at the Sunday Cup and you play in the Sunday Cup, a lot of people play handlock throughout that thing. I think most of the times that I've lost to handlock players, and I think people are more. Maybe it's a pride thing. Maybe people.
Oh yeah, some people don't want to play Zoo because they don't like playing that. They like to play control.
Or they think that they'll get a bad reputation if they 3 or they win a lot of their matches with Zoo. You can't 3-0 with Zoo in this format, but you could 3-2 with Zoo. But it could be a little bit of mix of both. But I definitely agree that Zoo is powerful. I might not think it's as powerful as you think it is, but it's still very strong.
You'll be a believer by the end of tomorrow when 6-0 plays Zoo.
We'll see.
You'll see.
He's going to play it and it's going to fall flat on his face. No,
No,
that's very
it's not.
unlikely.
It's actually not going to happen.
He just.
I can't believe you don't believe in the power of Zoo.
I do believe in the power of Zoo. I said I think it's very powerful. I just don't think it's as powerful as you think it is.
Yeah, it's even stronger than that.
Oh, I think it's actually more powerful than the power level that you think it's at.
Dude, it's crazy. You don't how do you stop it? Cause just I save all my removals for Doomguard and then Sea Giant comes out, and it's Implosion fills up the board so much, and if I just don't have Whirlwind, I'm taking 4 extra damage every turn. It's it's just wild what it can do.
Well, Zixo hasn't even been playing Sea Giant lately. He's been playing Shattered Sun Cleric in place of Sea Giant. So
It's still very good.
it's true.
It's still very, very good. Anyways, the point notwithstanding,
Yeah.
with Handlock coming in against Warrior here, I liked when FlyBird coined out this this Twilight Drake rather to pressure, and now it's a question of whether or not he wants to deny further draw or shred the armor. And he's making a read that his opponent doesn't have execute, so he's gonna kill off the Acolyte here, and it's the correct read. It's a very nice move.
I like that. It can be a little tough to decipher what the warrior might be holding on to. I'm a little bit curious with that play. Maybe trying to open up more opportunities for a Mountain Giant play next turn. But again, it would be the same thing because if you laid down an Ancient Watcher, I don't know. That's
Well, I also thought that he wanted to play Sludge Belch next turn because it's on curve.
yeah, that's true.
But it is curious. He's not going to overdraw. I am actually very fascinated why he didn't play the Ancient Watcher. There has to be a specific reason, though.
It wouldn't have changed his Mountain Giant play. It could have opened up a play where if his Twilight Drake had survived, he could play a Mountain Giant and then a Sunfury Protector to taunt up both. But he's not in any threat. That seems a little bit weird too if he would go for that, just because you really don't need a wall that early.
Right, everything has implied taunt.
Maybe he wanted a stronger Twilight Drake, but he'd be playing off curve if that was the case. Very interesting indeed.
This is, by the way, one of the criticisms against Armorsmith, because in these matchups where you need a little bit more out of your cards, Armorsmith actually doesn't do much. It's just a 1/4.
I dropped an Armorsmith from my Control Warrior deck.
Right, I mean, players like Kit Kats were thinking about doing that too. They've experimented, dropping Explosive Sheep instead, or putting in Explosive Sheep. It was a trial period, and for a while, like, Armorsmiths are great, especially against aggro, but sometimes they're just very lackluster in these control matchups.
Yeah. And I'm a very old school Control Warrior player. Like, I like to keep things in there for a lot longer than they should be. Like, I still throw in a Gore Howl every once in a while. You know, just for old time's sake.
Does that apply to every area of your life, that you hold on to things for old time's sake?
Yes. Thank you. Dan also doubles as my therapist. In my Hearthstone.
I wish. then I could charge way more than what I'm charging now.
See, and this is... See, this would have been the same play, it seems. I
right,
mean,
and you couldn't be, as a result, you lost a card for not tapping.
Yeah.
But I guess you gained 2 health. It is interesting because I think he's playing around something. I just don't understand what it is at the moment without just being able to ask him.
Or read his mind.
Right.
But asking would be a little easier.
Now his opponent's also building up a case for armor. Like the BGH also dealt with the Giant pretty easily.
Mm-hmm. He's been able to deal with these threats pretty well. And FlyBird seems to be just playing it very, very slow and patiently. Yeah,
I mean, I was also okay with dropping the Sludge Belcher so that way you can have a minion to play out. You have a way to knock down his armor a little bit. And then you even have like a response. If the big game hunter came out, this can immediately kill it off, you know? But instead, it seems like he's opted to go for the strongest play possible every single turn. So it's a divergence of styles here where he wants to go for strongest tempo to seize back the board. And of course, FlyBird is not playing around all these possibilities here.
And Ozzy's actually running a Black Knight. We actually haven't seen much Black Knight over the recent weeks of the Legendary Series.
It's going to be so good against some of these plays.
Well, if you think about it, the way this format works, it's very similar to Ladder. And in a lot of matchups that you would see on the Ladder, Black Knight doesn't get that great of value out of it. But if you're expecting like hand locks, then it's fantastic. Or if you're expecting a lot of decks that are going to be running like Sledge Belchers, then it's fantastic. So it's not a card that we see very often, but when it is played, sometimes it can have a huge impact. But like I said, at the same time, it could be very greedy. Oh, only 1 damage. I guess it wouldn't really matter that
Right.
much.
It might matter if he draws execute though. Still, this Twilight Drake is gonna do massive damage until it gets stopped. That 1 health does make a difference if he wanted to drop Ragnaros this turn.
Yeah, that's... I would actually say Ragnaros would probably be a good option here. Well, I don't know, because if it hits face, then you could be in trouble, because you might be facing like Molten Giants and then like a Siphon Soul or something.
I think the Fiery War Axe is okay with the Sludge Belcher. The Fiery War Axe doesn't really kill off many targets other than the 2/3 minions like Defender of Argus, Sun Fury Protector. It might be your chopping to get to kill off your opponent as well.
You don't like Shield Maiden in that situation? Are you trying to preserve the armor that you'd gain from Shield Maiden?
Well, it seems unnecessary just because the Twilight Drake will attack the armor anyway, so you basically don't gain much from that.
Yeah.
Like, the Shield Maiden is best because you don't actually have a way to benefit of another Shield Slam right now. It's basically another shield block.
Yeah.
Because if you do this, then he shreds your armor, and then once again, Shield Slam is going to be less effective.
Well, Dan, there's people like me that really love to fit the curve.
That's true. Hitting the curve can be very powerful.
That plays into my decisions probably way more than it should in a lot of scenarios.
Well, because just think if he draws Shield Slam now, it's like, well, if you play a Giant, taunt up the Drake, or even just play like another smaller minion,
Yeah,
you just like, then your Shield Slam becomes a lot less powerful.
it's true. If I have a mediocre play that fills up all my mana, and a pretty good play that fills up, that I miss out on 1 or 2 mana,
You're going to go with the
I'll go with the mediocre play.
Gotcha.
Because
Does that
Hearthstone,
apply to all areas of your life?
because Hearthstone's a feel-good game.
Because
and,
if,
you know,
if
Dan,
something's
I like to
comfortable
feel
to
good.
you, you choose the mediocre path.
Whoa. I'm gonna need to take a minute to.
I'm going to grab a box of tissues. Right. Actually, I do have some tissues in my jacket.
I'm gonna take a minute of introspection while we wait for this rope.
When I
to
hold
go
up this
down.
run of show, what do you see? I actually did have a box
actually
of
has
tissues in my jacket.
Tissues. Wow.
It's a German. Bionorica. Nasa dicht? Drukt kommt es mich.
Bless you.
Dankeschön.
I don't even know what to think anymore.
Well, he opted to just drop the Sludge Belcher instead of a Giant. It's a very safe play. And again, this is where shredding the armor is like, well, you know, cool story, bro. You gained a few armor, you put a 5/5, but it's easily dissected. And this also feels like it indirectly bluffs like Hellfire or some way to clear off the Shield Maiden easily, because now it's like, well, why would you toss Sludge Belcher when you know that I can effectively dissect it with the weapon plus the Shield Maiden? It's like, well, I might have a way to easily clear everything, and the Twilight Drake still remains pretty healthy.
It's true.
There's a lot of information being passed back and forth in this game right now.
It feels pretty good to use the Black Knight in this situation. But is there any merit to holding on to that?
Well, it looks
Do you
like
think you lose way too much momentum by holding on to a Black Knight in that situation?
whoa! I was not expecting attack to the face.
Wow.
Oh, he's gonna go for a Ragnaros finish? But that might not even work out. You just Shadow Flame the Drake,
Molten Giant,
Molten Giant,
Healbot.
and Healbot.
Wow. You chip off all the armor. You're left with a pretty good amount of health, a 3/3 and an
Right.
8/8 on the board. That might have been a risky move. Well, actually, it wouldn't have made a difference. The play would not have changed. Because he was sub 10 health regardless.
No, you're right. Well, you know, he would have been in a... Well, let's see. If he traded off and killed off the... Yeah, you're right. Actually, I like this play because I think he realizes his hand hasn't developed very well.
Mhm.
He doesn't have a finisher. And he's just going for an opportunity to kill his opponent.
He's got Brawl.
Right.
So he knows that he could put... Well, yeah, he could push through. But this is such a fantastic momentum swing. I mean, there wasn't even that much momentum for Ozzy in the first place, but
like, where do you go from here? This was the worst case scenario, actually, quite literally. It was like, he has to have a Molten Giant, he has to have Shadow Flame, and he has to have like a way to heal or be defensive.
Yeah.
And it's like he had all three of those.
Vernon, I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I actually thought Ozzy was on a webcam this whole time.
What now?
That's a still picture.
What do you see when you look at Ozzy's webcam? Oh, well, I guess it doesn't really change much. This Ragnaros needs to do some big things. And hitting the face isn't that bad, actually, because you still have the Gromosh, and you have the Brawl for whatever situation comes. But,
And this is a little bit of an awkward spot. You're forcing your opponent to pretty much have a Siphon Soul, and if he Siphon Souls, then it's putting on a lot of his turn.
well, I mean, you can just kill the Ragnaros, too, with, like, the Giant.
I don't like that. Well, I like
I mean,
it.
what if
I
you-
like the play. It just, it doesn't feel right.
Gotcha.
It doesn't feel comfortable.
Why not just kill it off with the, or even just taunt it up with Defender of Argus, so that way it doesn't die.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. And you can actually throw out a Mountain Giant and do exactly that.
Yeah.
And the Mountain Giant is going to start to become less and less effective as this game goes on, because it's going to cost more and more of his turn to be able to use it. So I don't think he's really worried too much about playing around Brawl right now either. And Brawl is... well,
Definitely coming out here. Now, I think you toss an Armor Smith. Right?
oh yeah. Because that Armor Smith's not going to really do you much good as the rest of this game goes on. So giving you that little bit of extra chance to... Actually, it's quite a big chunk of extra chance to come out on.
Another 20%. Assuming it works out the way we think it does.
I mean, even if the Molten Giant lives through this, you can always execute it. 1 health.
What if the Mountain Giant lives?
Well, Dan,
Here we go.
we'll come to that crossroads when we see it. This is actually going to be a big
Sound
deal.
the alarm.
FlyBird shakes his head. What's going to come out?
Oh!
There it is.
It was very close for the Armor Smith to winning that brawl.
Okay.
Okay.
It's like,
Why would you take 9 damage unnecessarily?
Yeah. Oh, this is dangerous. Hellfire. He's got a way to put up a wall. He's got Sylvanas and
Yeah,
Sun Fury
he has to do
Protector,
it
which
too.
is pretty effective.
He's digging for Jiraxxus and also crossing his fingers for no Harrison Jones, but more importantly, he needs to heal up out of range. Sylvanas Zombie Chow Taunt, though, seems to be the play. Now, what also is very inconvenient is there's nothing that Sylvanas is challenging. So, it's like you might... Oh, only taunting up Zombie Chow.
Wow.
Huh. That is interesting.
That's very interesting.
Well, I suppose you,
Get rid of the taunt.
yeah, and then you play Sludge Belcher, right? Or does it matter? No, I guess it really doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, I guess at this point it's like, well, why
Oh,
not?
it does if you have Baron Geddon, I suppose.
That's true.
And FlyBird, does he have the Baron?
Oh. Well, that Molten Giant could not have come at a better time.
Yeah, right before Jiraxxus. Now, the question is, again, do you tap? I think you can tap here. He's down to 1 card, and most likely it's a card that might be able to finish. And either way, you have a taunt. You have a taunt with a lot of life potential, so I think you do tap. You want to get closer to Jiraxxus.
Yeah, you know Brawl's gone. Yep. You know that Shield Slam,
2 Shield Slams have
two
been
Shield
used.
Slams were
An
used.
Execute has been used.
1 Execute, right?
Yeah, 1 Execute
But
has been
this,
used.
he wouldn't even have a way to sort of activate Execute on this.
I'd definitely be
this
okay with
drive.
tapping here.
Playing it safe. Playing it safe.
It's okay if Jiraxxus is his next card, but if Jiraxxus is in 2 cards from now, it's like,
Well, at this point, it doesn't matter that much because he can deny the draw from this Acolyte of Pain knowing that his opponent's on one card, and then he can push through for, what, 17 damage? That's a lot. And now he has Harrison Jones in his pocket.
Yeah. But, you know, as the handlock player, you need to find every moment you can tap. Is there something that I'm missing, though? Like, maybe he's playing around something that I'm not aware of.
I don't think so.
I mean, he's being super cautious about it, that's for sure.
And I really like how he played around the execute on the Molten Giant here. It would feel maybe a little bit enticing to just ignore the silenced Acolyte of Pain and go face with the 5 damage from the Sylvanas, but making sure that you're in a spot where you're protecting your biggest taunt at this point in the game is actually a really big deal.
Well, I think FlyBird's okay with Sylvanas trading here. Because even in the worst case scenario, you can actually answer it with the BGH. Ah, well, looks like he sold the Owl. It's a good scenario.
That's best case right there. He didn't attack, but I guess he was just waiting to see what came out from it.
Baron is in the deck. And that's actually not a bad draw, but in the context of what FlyBird has in response with the big game hunter, it's actually not going to do much.
Yeah, and then he's going to be sitting at 8 health for the following turn, so he's going to have to answer, and an antique healbot comes out as well.
Okay, that gives you a room to tap now.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I think that
Please tap, FlyBird.
I can tell that's one of your pet peeves when handlocks don't tap.
Just do it. It's so easy, so simple. And that should lock up the game unless there's Deathwing. Oh no, even there's Siphon still. Okay, Sludge Belcher to stall for a little bit longer.
That's not going to be long enough.
Oh, certainly not. Now that there's an Owl here. And FlyBird's going to take game number 3 with a 2-1 lead. Now we go into the blind pick stage.
And there goes the Rocket, once again. A fitting end to that match. But yeah, FlyBird going to take a 2-1 lead. That was a pretty close game, and that's sort of the nature of Warrior versus Handlock. It really comes down to those, a lot of times it comes down to those draws at the end of the game. There's a lot of decision making early. Both decks usually have answers to whatever the opponent's going to throw out, and so
Sure.
well played by FlyBird. I keep wanting to call him Firebird, but FlyBird's like the more tame. It's very tame.
Well, next week we'll move the confidence monitor a little bit closer to you, so you can read these names
Yeah.
a little bit clearer. I have the same problem too. I have poor eyesight, so sometimes I read it wrong as well. So, yeah.
I think my mind just reads it wrong. I think my eyesight is good, but like I have like epic goggles on, which just makes me
So
think,
you
look
see
at everything a
some-
little bit more epic.
So your mind wants to see. So your mind convinces you something else you want.
Yeah,
to
like
see.
my mind was convincing me that Ozzy was actually moving the whole time, and he was just like a really stoic figure,
Oh,
and it was actually a live webcam instead of a still photo, when it wasn't.
Oh well, hopefully it doesn't apply to other areas of your life. But let's take a look at the match screen to see what we guys have for the blind pick. We talked about Warlock versus Warlock possibly being the selection here for game number 4.
Mhm.
I'm leaning towards that. I also think now that you know that it's Handlock, though, would you pick Warrior instead? I guess not. So
I don't know.
the reason why we said Warlock with Warlock is a Zoo versus Zoo, but now that's Handlock versus Zoo. I gotta say I like the chances of the Handlock player here.
I do. I think Ozzy had a really, really tough decision here. I don't think Paladin would have been that great of a choice, just because.
You think so? I think Paladin would have actually been okay too.
You have to. I just don't think Paladin's just that strong against Handlock. It has
Really?
opportunity.
You have equality.
Do you though? Some Paladins cut equality.
I'm pretty sure he did have equality in his hand.
Did he?
Like in one of the mulligans. And you have Alder Peacekeeper on some of those giants.
Yeah, it's true. I just. It seems like as long as a Handlock can stop some of the aggression once, they just have so many threats that a Paladin just can't answer. Because equality's great, but You have to really be patient with the equality, especially with this faster deck. Not like the old control paladins with the faster decks. You have to really respect your opponent's board and hold on to the equalities, sometimes more than you'd feel comfortable with. But Zeus seemed like his best choice in that situation. And of course, I said it earlier, I mean, a lot of the times these players just have decks that they're more comfortable with. And he might just feel more confident with Zoo than he does with Warrior Paladin, even if those might be the better choice. So a lot of it comes down to player preference. Like Brian Kibler. When Brian Kibler was a part of the ESL Legendary Series, if it went the blind pick, he was picking Priest. No matter what.
Alright, fair enough, fair enough. I just think that there still is some strategy of what you can approach to it. And we'll see if Ozzy's going to be able to run over, but not with that kind of hand. Double Molten Giant, Sun Fury Protector. Oh boy. This is where knowing Zoo and knowing the mulligans for properly can just straight up decide a game.
Yeah, those are some of the best cards that you can have in your hand. Molten Giants, just in general, at all, against those aggro matchups, Hunter and Zoo, especially, just so great.
Well, the last thing that you're missing is AoE, some way to destroy the board.
Hellfire,
and if you
Shadow
have
Flame.
that,
Yeah.
then you're pretty much set if you're FlyBird.
Well, Ozzy's hand's not the greatest, so FlyBird is going to have some opportunities to be able to draw into those AoEs. Now, there are some cards that could be problematic, though. Like if you have those Nerubians, sometimes it can be really... You can have ways to clear the board, but it's inefficient. Like there's a lot of Death Rattle creatures, you leave like a lot of tokens left on the board. And you have to be really precise a lot of the times with how you move around. It's not just like the Molten Giants, like an auto win if they're in their opening hand. You still have to be very precise and use those turns later on in the game when you're getting to the low health totals very effectively. Because one mistake could just lose you the game. It's very volatile.
Even Immortal Coil, that's very useful in this matchup as well.
It is.
FlyBird's going to be in an excellent spot. Coining at Twilight Drake next turn will be great. Ozzy's hand continues to be awkward. But how will he respond to this Twilight Drake? It's gonna be a Force 8. Well, he's got some juggle opportunities here. Especially now that he's coming up on a turn where his opponent might Hellfire. I think the egg is definitely in order at this time.
I think Egg and Direwolf Alpha is probably the best case. And then you have to decide... well, now you kind of have... Whoa.
2 juggles onto it. If he hits the Drake twice...
Wow!
Whoa!
That is... You can see FlyBird
FlyBird
just throw his head back in disgust at that, but that's actually a
Sad bird.
really big deal because if only a couple juggles had gone face and a couple juggles had gone to the Twilight Drake, then he probably just would have gone face. He would have had to make the decision to either just go face and risk an AoE clearing his entire board.
You're so right. Like that makes such the difference right there.
Wow.
I think you also have to silence his egg.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
That's like another painful moment. It's like
Yeah.
Because if you play this Ancient Watcher, he just crashes into it, and there's a 5/4 now.
Wow. And this, I mean, Knife Jugglers actually represent quite a bit of damage on the board, especially if you're not putting a lot of creatures out. And so, like, he could effectively just hold. If he's not afraid of an AoE, then he could put his opponent just out of Molten Giant range and be able to push in for a lethal amount of damage in a single turn with how much damage he can put out on the board. And Leopard Gnome?
Well,
it's better than I'm on a Pier in this matchup because sometimes you just need that little bit of extra damage.
yeah,
to push through.
Leopard Gnome's not the worst one. I think Clockwork Gnome is definitely less useful. But even then, the Spirit part might be like if you have a really good target like a Dark Iron Dwarf or something, and then you just stealth it for one turn, might be an opportunity for you to win. Or even if you run Big Game Hunter, or sorry, Sea Giant, so that's safe from Big Game Hunter.
Oh yeah. Very good point. Wow.
Jeez, that is so much damage. So now I think you start loading the board, but not attacking.
Yeah.
If you play Direwolf and you play the Leopard Gnome and not attack, or even Clockwork Gnome, it's fine too.
It'll be at 16.
Oh, he goes for it.
Whoa.
Whoa, that's really ballsy.
I don't think I like that. Don't think I like that. There's a lot of damage on board, but is he... He cannot be confident in his ability to get through.
He's
Molten
power
Giants.
overwhelming.
Yeah, but...
So he says if you have one Molten Giant, I'm good. 2 Molten Giants, though. That's definitely a problem.
I looked over at Ozzy's face once again for a reaction, and I'm
No
like,
reaction.
wow, stone cold.
Stoic.
Well. Oh, wow.
Should he have played that Zombie Cho? Because next turn he would have had a Mountain Giant. Actually, it doesn't really matter because he can't play that Mountain Giant. That's the dead card.
He can get through these Mountain Giants,
Yeah, he definitely can.
which is scary.
It's scary, but he's giving up a lot. He's giving up everything. He's giving up board initiative. This is some complicated combat math here. I think you also want to use a time rewinder on the Abusive Sergeant. And then once again, tag it onto the same Direwolf Alpha. And hopefully it doesn't juggle on the same one. Wow!
That's a good juggle. Wait a second. Wow. I mean, he can clear and still have his Knife Juggler. Oh, no, he couldn't.
Oh, that was a mistake.
Yeah.
He totally messed that up.
He counted in the Direwolf's damage that he traded in with the... Oh,
Juggle
that's
can't
a
save
big
him.
mistake.
Whoa! Oh man!
Wow. Now he can't kill the... He has to trade in his Knife Juggler, which otherwise
Would have done damage to the face.
would have done
That
damage
was a
to the face.
huge error there.
Yeah. And he knew it right away.
Well, now FlyBird. I mean, he just has to play keep away until he can stabilize. He's not out of the woods yet, but he's got this Ancient Heal bot.
I think he's okay. He's in pretty decent shape. He knows his opponent only has 1 card. And of course, making mistakes like that can always put you on tilt. The tilt factor. How much does that play in? Because
Oh, boy.
there's going to be a lot of it's going to be a close call coming down, and you really need to 100% efficiently play your turns at this stage. And making a mistake like that can sometimes make a pretty big difference.
Well, it's definitely costing him here. Abusive Sergeant, not very strong here. Doomguard is also weak just because he gets stopped easily by Sludge Belcher. Yeah, I think I do agree with this. I think you need to hope that you can get like a silence and push through.
And also, I think at this point you're going to need most of the cards that you can get. You can't afford to really discard much.
Do you like playing Mountain Giant here, or do you go for heal just in case?
What is there a just in case for it, though? Even if he has a silence, is there going to be a way that he can do 7 damage with 2 cards? Because one of his cards would have to be a Doomguard, one of his cards would have to be a silence. I just don't think there's a way.
Yeah, well, it seems like the Sludge Belcher is going to do so much work. Undertaker off the top is not going to do anything for Ozzy this turn.
And he's at 15 health now and has
Oh, wow.
Alex Raza. I think this one's nearly in the bag for FlyBird.
Now you can drop Sylvanas, silence your own Ancient Watcher. And then next turn you have Alex Straza to bounce you back up or even go aggressive.
Yeah.
This is a very good moment for FlyBird, and I think this is going to wrap up the series. It looks like he's primed to take it 3-1 and move on to play Gooby Sencho.
And Gooby, he came off of a fantastic round one, 3-0ing Sriracha Jirachi. And, I mean, it's not over yet, but what can Ozzy even do at this point? Like, even if he draws into the second Doom Guard, he's got to be able to push through for that damage while dealing with this board. And there's going to be an Alex Straza on the other side of that, so he's counting up his damage right now, but he's a little bit off lethal with Alex Straza. So you can continue to just keep clearing.
Yeah,
keep
I think you should just be
stabilizing.
safe. There's
Yeah.
no reason for you to just like leave up stuff on the board. Just kill off everything you can, and just allow your board to just carry you in lethal next turn with Alex Straza again.
Yep.
Ozzy will tap to see if he can get another answer, but unless that card can do something miraculous like Twisting Nether,
Even then, it'd still be a little bit of a rough situation. Oh man, okay.
well played. And I guess we have our first two winners bracket finalists. See who goes in. Ozzy's not out of it yet. He will go on to play the guy
Jirachi.
that lost to Gooby Sencho. That's Jirachi. And he's going to play him and find out who's going to be eliminated first in this group.
Yeah, and now these guys, again, like we said, they've already played through such a big bracket. They've already played through that 400 to 500 player bracket to make it where they are today. So they've won a lot. So even if they go out today, they still made a great run, and they'll still go away with a little bit of cash at the end of the day because, of course, there is a $500 prize pool associated with that Sunday Cup that qualified them for this Challenger final. But congratulations to FlyBird. He's going to move on to the winners bracket. We'll have to see if Ozzy's going to be able to stay alive.
Taiwan players, they mean business. They
do.
really want to get here. They've also been trying extremely hard, and they've been getting through. So it's good for them. They've been taking it very seriously. I know during the holidays, a few of my friends, a few of the pro gamers, they've been taking it pretty relaxed. Like, it's holidays, but those guys, they're working really hard because they want to make it really badly. So
Yep.
it's another inspiring tale of work ethic there. That series was brought to you. Actually, let's take a look at the bracket real quick. Sorry, before we go into our break festivities, we have FlyBird versus Gooby Sencho. That will be coming up later. But first, I believe we have Ozzy versus Jirachi. That'll be coming up on stream in just a few minutes. Thank you so much for everyone who's been tuning in. Hope you guys have been having fun and enduring the delay that is waiting to log into Battle.net. But it looks like we're past that. We also want to thank the sponsors that make this all possible. If you go to esl.gg/Newegg Esports, you can find out all the cool promotions right here in this link. Just check out all the cool discounts that you can get with Western Digital, Crucial, and Cooler Master.
Yeah, they have some great deals going on. I checked them out the other day. Maybe looking to spend a little bit of my Christmas money to upgrade to an SSD, which Crucial has some great ones over there on that link. So make sure you guys check that out.
All right, we'll be back in a few minutes, guys, with more action here at Week 6 of the Challenger Finals at the Legendary Series. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.